Hi, everybody. I'm Alice K. Ruckelhaus and from SufferingWell, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about autism. I posted a video last Sunday about what I was going through personally, and I really appreciate the response that people had. Just so encouraging and so compassionate, and also like somebody prayed the rosary for me, which I really appreciate. That means so much. So I just want you all to know you're very, very appreciated. But I was watching the video the next day and I was struck by something that I think might be really confusing to you, especially if you're not autistic. I'm not absolutely sure that this is because of my autism. I think it is, and I'll explain why. But I notice, like, I'm laughing and I'm smiling, but I'm saying this is really hard and I feel like I'm going to have a meltdown. Okay, so that's usually what you'll see from me. If I'm by myself, I'll be crying and everything. There is something about getting on camera that suddenly allows me to just like project energy and joy that I often don't actually have. Here's an example: is when my husband was killed in a car accident. So it was very traumatic. It was very sudden, which shock is something that really, really affects me. I don't like surprises. I don't like surprise parties or anything like that because they can really, wow, they can affect me really badly. So I don't like surprises. Um, so, having a trooper show up at my door and tell me that my husband had been killed in a car accident, and he was so sweet and so compassionate. He was wonderful. Everybody that I dealt with from the Tennessee troopers were just amazing. Um, but even one who gave me his phone number and said I could call him day or night, 24/7, even if all I needed to do was scream. Just wonderful. But that was a real shock and everything. And that was on Sunday. I didn't have classes on Monday. At that time, I was taking Monday off, and then I had to teach on Tuesday, and I teach online. And the company offered to let me take some time off, but I wouldn't have been paid. And I didn't, my husband took care of the finances. I had no idea where we were. Monday, when I came out of my house and went to the mailbox, there was a notice from the IRS saying that they could take my house and everything. And it was really scary. So, no, I wasn't going to take any time off work. So I worked. And in my job, I have to put energy out there. I have to be happy and jumping around and just be really excited and everything. And I was able to do that. I think that's because of my autism. I'm not absolutely sure. But so maybe if you're autistic, if you could tell me if that's how you would be able to do. I just react that way. I turn on the camera, bam, I'm happy, I'm energetic. Okay. Once in a while, I think I've done a couple videos where, like, I think when David was interviewing me about Bill's death, I had a hard time showing that joy and energy then, and it wouldn't have been appropriate. But that's what I wanted to talk about is a lot of times my emotions are very inappropriate. And I've known that before I knew I was autistic, but I didn't know why. It was just weird. And I tried to, this is one of the things that we do is we mask. We try to imitate what other people are doing around us, and we don't get it quite right. And so people feel like there's something off. And so when I was recording that, I was like in hysterics, not laughing hysterics, but crying hysterics. And then I get on camera and whoa, I'm happy and everything like that. It is kind of a knee-jerk reaction for me. I don't even think about it. I don't even think I can help it. And I don't know if it's something that I've cultivated or if it's just how I am. I can also get up on a stage if I'm supposed to speak at a retreat or something, and bam, I'm happy, I'm energetic, and you have no idea that I'm going through some horrible trauma. So here's why I think that it's my autism. Usually, autistic people have difficulty with emotions. We feel fear, anxiety, depression. We feel those emotions very, very strongly. Other emotions we might not feel as strongly as other people. And I don't know why that is, but it's just that's how it is. I had some really, really bad things happen to me, horrible things, rape and other things happen to me between 20 and 50 years old. And I still remember all the details from those. and I was at that time a basket case a lot of the time. But now I can remember the details from those things. I can tell you exactly what happened, but I don't feel the emotion. When I'm writing a book, because I write novels, and my reason for writing those novels is to help people understand how it feels for a woman going through these things, rape and so on, what the struggles are that she has to deal with, how her community can support her. And by community, I mean like her friends, not her town. um, and I write about abuse and things like that too. Um, when I'm writing, I need to feel those emotions because I need to get those across to the reader. I want the reader to be inside the person's head. And so I want them to be able to feel that emotion as much as possible. So I have to do that. So what I do, um, I have people praying for me. I have really close friends who understand me, they understand my writing, and I ask them to be praying while I'm working on this because I'm terrified that I won't come out of it. If I go back and feel those feelings, I'm really, really scared that I may not ever be able to come back out of it. Here's what I think of. I think of a scuba diver, and I've never gone scuba diving, so this illustration may fall apart, but this is how I think of it. I know that scuba divers need to have somebody up in the boat. That person is keeping track of the time. They know how much oxygen that person has. And somehow they're keeping track of if the person gets lost. It had never, until I read about this, about scuba diving, I was teaching a class on it actually. Um, and I learned you can get lost under the water. That makes sense, especially for somebody me. I am like completely directionally impaired. So if I were to go into the water, I probably would get lost. Somehow the person up in the boat can keep track of that. I guess maybe from a quarter, I don't know. I'm not sure how they keep track of it. But anyway, but they do. And they also keep track of the time. So if you don't come up before your oxygen runs out, they at least know what happened. I'm assuming they can get help. So to me, my prayer team is the person waiting up in the boat. And now that I'm Catholic, I also have saints that I specifically chose as my patron saints when I became Catholic, that I ask to be up there in the boat, watching out for me, making sure that I come out of this, that I don't end up staying in that emotional state, which I don't know what that would do to me. It would be horrible. So, so we feel some feelings very richly. They're usually bad feelings, to be honest. And then we're challenged to feel some other feelings. And I kind of think that that's maybe what happens, like what was happening to me yesterday when I was recording what you probably saw a week ago. Because I was laughing and everything. I did start crying at one point, but it's like I pretty much um also when my husband died, my parents came down. They were in the middle of a trip and they gave that whole trip up. They came down and they stayed with me for a couple months, and they stayed at a campground because they were in a motorhome. And so I was alone, which actually ended up being a really good thing because I have a hard time expressing my emotions around people unless it's just to the point where it's like I'm out of control. I can't control myself. But most of the time I have a hard time expressing my emotions. And so I needed obviously to be able to express my emotions. So it was a good thing that my parents weren't staying actually in the house with me. But because I didn't cry around my parents, I don't know if I ever cried that whole time that my parents were there for 2 months. I don't know if I cried around them at all. When they were gone, I would cry. I was screaming this horrible, blood curdling animal type of scream. And that if anybody was walking by and heard it, I don't know what they thought. I thought the first time that I did it, I didn't think it was for me. I thought there was some animal in my house. Um, so my parents didn't see that. And my mom understood. My dad thought that I wasn't grieving over Bill because he didn't see that. So my emotions weren't out of control. I was able to control them, but I wasn't like intentionally controlling them. I would have liked to have cried around my parents. That would have been a good thing. Not just so my dad would have seen it, but just I think they could have given me a lot of comfort. And they did give me a lot of comfort in other ways. Really, I mean, it was awesome having them there. It really helped a lot. I was scared when they left, but I did okay. Um, so why am I telling you this? I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. I'll probably cut this part out, or I may leave it in so you can see how dingy I am. Anyway, just to say, I'm able to control my emotions, not intentionally, but just it just happens. It's like in certain circumstances, I just can't show those. And so oftentimes when I'm going through something really hard, I will laugh about it, even not on camera, even just like with other people. But when I get on camera or I stand up to talk to a group of people, um, it's just like this automatic thing. I'm joyful and I have tons of energy, even though I could barely walk 5 minutes before. I don't know what that is, but to me, I consider it, if it is from autism, I consider it a benefit of autism that I'm not, because I think most people, like with all the things that I went through from the time that I was 20 to 50, I think that um, they would probably still have major, maybe like PTSD or something from that. I think that it would still really affect them. For me, it does affect me in some ways, but it's not this huge emotional thing all the time. I mean, I sit and I talk to, like I was talking to somebody yesterday about things that I've been through, and I have no emotion, no emotion at all connected to it. It helps because that has helped me to be able to forgive, even though I did struggle with forgiving one of those people. Um, but I think it's easier. It's a little bit easier for me to forgive things, at least things that happened a while ago. Things that happen that are happening right now are hard for me, and I think they're probably hard for everybody. But I think it's easier for me to forgive because of my autism, because I'm not having that emotional attachment to that. Um, so I just part of the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I want you to know there are benefits as well. It's I don't want to just be like whining about being autistic. There are definitely benefits. Another emotional benefit is that I think I can empathize with people better. I can often sense what people are feeling, and I don't want to say that in a spooky way, but there's just I take things in differently from people, and I'm pretty sure that's because of my autism. So that's another benefit. Um, anyway, there are other benefits too, and I want to be sharing those with you because I want this to be well balanced. I think that it's important for you to know the difficulties, especially if you're not autistic, so that you can, if you see somebody experiencing these things, you know what it is. But also, like this whole thing that I consider a benefit, I consider not having to feel those things from my history, I consider that a benefit. Um, Whereas if I'm talking to somebody about things that happened in the past, they might think that I'm just really cold. You know, what a cold B word, because I don't have emotions about it. Um, so yeah, so be aware of that too. If you're discussing something with somebody and they just seem like some cold-blooded woman, that might be why. It might be because they're autistic or something, and they may not even know it, as I've pointed out in a number of videos. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about those things. I wanted to talk about this benefit. I wanted to talk about why I was so in that video and stuff, and why I am in all my videos. A lot of times, I'll be really depressed, and I will decide to make a movie because of that, make a video. Because if I make a video, then I'll be cheerful. Oh, I started to say about when my husband died and I was teaching. So I was teaching. None of those kids or their parents ever knew that I had just lost my husband. I was happy and energetic and everything. And I wasn't really faking. I cried in between classes. um, but it just came on. So I really consider that a gift of my autism. Um, yeah. Yeah, I consider that a gift. I think that that's a positive thing that, I'm able to do that. And it's not something that I try to do. It just happens. So I don't know. Tell me what you think. If you're autistic, tell me if you experience that too, or if that's just like some weird thing about me that's not from my autism. I don't know. Um, it makes sense to me that it would be autistic because of just the way that emotions work for us. But I would really like to hear from others about that. All right. I love you all. Thank you for all your support. Even those of you who don't write, if you pray, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And if this is helping you in some way to be compassionate towards others, whether they're autistic or not, I appreciate that too. And that makes it feel worthwhile for me. All right. I love you all. I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.